Sure. So my name is Sarah Moran, and I'm a second year in the MSFS program at Georgetown. And when I was actually looking at colleges, I was this close to coming to Georgetown and joining SFS as an undergrad anyway, because I've always been interested in foreign service broadly defined.
Okay.
And in the U.S. foreign service for a long time as well.
Okay.
But I ended up going to Harvard, and then when I graduated, I taught overseas at an international school in Cape Town, South Africa for 3 years. And then when my visa was expiring there, I was looking for master's programs, and I knew Georgetown was the place I wanted to go. It's actually the only program I applied to.
All right.
Because I know it's strategically located in Washington, D.C., but also it has a great reputation. So applied, was lucky enough to get in, and came. Sure. So my only work experience was teaching, which is very service-oriented. And as an undergrad, my extracurricular activities were very much geared towards public service. But my academic side of my undergraduate career was very theoretical and philosophical. So what I really wanted to get out of MSFS was a good way to take sort of the theory of international relations and apply it to, actual decisions you have to make as a policymaker.
Okay.
And how you sort of tie those things together. So one thing that I have definitely been able to develop is a better understanding of where theoretical ideas and implications of a decision actually meet with practical realities, and being able to balance those interests between what you think you should do and what you have to do as a policymaker. Totally broadened my idea, made it a lot more complicated, and I see now why decisions get made that I don't agree with in theory, but you understand in the end that the process of making those decisions is never an easy one. And I think that, above all else, that's what I've learned out of MSFS. Sure. So I had a great fellowship opportunity to look at organizations that use sport for development in South Africa and Zimbabwe. But more specifically, we were evaluating the efficacy and effectiveness of those programs and trying to get them to think broadly about how they can measure their impact, which is really important for nonprofit organizations to do in order to sustain their funding sources and validate their existence. So it was great because I got to see the good and the bad, the bad and the ugly of nonprofits and international NGOs, and the limitations that they face for good reason sometimes. But I also got to see some of the stories of grassroots organizations that were really succeeding and digging in. Some of my favorite organizations were ones that were homegrown, sort of out of the townships in South Africa, and those that really demonstrate. It was instances where you see people on the ground doing a really innovative problem solving, looking around, seeing a problem in their environment, figuring out a good way to fix it, and that's always where sport came in. If you're trying to engage youth, then sport is almost the easiest tool to do it, and so that was what was really, really cool about the project. Yeah, I think if we think about the program as being what you learn inside the classroom and also what you're sort of forced into being involved with outside of the classroom, then I think service is an enormous component. I think that it's always a prime component of all of our career fairs, and with the alumni network that we have, you notice a lot of people go into public service in various forms. And obviously in the classroom it's important, but I don't think it's a focus in the classroom. But I do think it's integral to the social dynamic outside of the classroom as well. I think that there is a spirit of initiative, and that lends itself well to service to the school, to the program, and to the broader community as well. So in that way, it's, it's definitely integral. For me, the biggest challenge is looking at a hiring environment that's not hugely favorable if you thought you were going to get hired by the government to do public service. Amazing ways, it's just not the reality. So one thing that I appreciate the program has helped develop is looking at public service as being something you can enter in a lot of different ways. So I don't have a great concrete idea as to what my role is going to be in the real world when I graduate. but I do see there being I see a lot broader array of opportunities than I did when I first entered the program. When I first entered the program, I thought the only thing I'd ever want to do is join the Foreign Service. I'm realizing that there are a lot of other ways to have an impact in the public sphere that doesn't necessarily involve being a direct hire by the government. No, I mean, I'm going to miss a lot of things. I think the camaraderie, being able to just having a
sense of community.
Yeah, sense of community, having free time in the middle of the day to go to lunch and like that being normal.
Yeah.
But I also I'm a work addict, so I love having, with school, it's sort of this infinite amount of work that you can do.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be the case. There's always sort of a discrete amount of work that you have to produce, maybe not in a job. So that's one thing I'm going to miss is the actual studying. That's because I'm a huge dork.
That's going on you.
And of course it is. And of course the people, I'm going to miss the people, but I kind of don't think we're going to be that far apart from each other.